Okay, this is TCF once more. I'm going to do part 2 of the Rec 7 by Echo 1 review and take a quick look at some of the internals here. So I've already taken it down a little bit since it's kind of hard to do with one hand. But in order to take it down, all you got to do is remove this pin right here. And you can shove it out with like a screwdriver or an Allen wrench or something like that. And then you can hinge the receiver up. And Echo 1 actually chose to use the split hop-up design, a lot like the KWA design as well, so that it would hinge open like on the real steel gun as well. You can see the feed nozzle right there and the nozzle here. I'll go ahead and take a look at the hop-up. KWA has actually proven pretty conclusively, at least for me, that a two-piece plastic hop-up like this can actually be really good. Especially if you install an Element H nub or something like that in there. So definitely very quality. You can see it's got a brass inner barrel. I don't think it's a tight bore. It's not crowned, but still pretty nice. It takes a standard AEG barrels and such, and you can, if you remove this part here, you could probably install a Prometheus or a King Arms hop-up chamber as well, which would possibly be worth it. One thing I'm going to remark, though, and this is something that I was actually pretty disappointed about, is when I took a look inside the barrel, I could actually pretty clearly see that the hop-up nub was not aligned correctly. So it doesn't speak too well for the quality control. I expected a little bit better from Echo 1, especially given the quality of the rest of their internal parts. Now, I will remark, though, that it's you can see perhaps if we can look in the light, you can see kind of a little bit of blue there. It's kind of hard to see because my camera's not so good. But it appears to use the blue Mad Bull bucking, which is pretty nice. So you probably won't need to replace the bucking. And that's definitely a nice touch. I'm going to have to go in and, of course, clean the bucking and install it correctly, which is disappointing. But still, it's definitely looking pretty nice as far as that goes. So here's the gearbox, and so Echo One's done their usual pretty solid job here. You can see pretty clearly here that there's a nice metal spring guide in there. It uses, I imagine, based on the specs, I haven't tested it yet, the spring here is probably an M120, 400 feet per second spring. You can also see there's an orange piston here, which also looks pretty nice. And I'm going to go ahead and set the remove the safety, and you can see this thing in action here. So it's actually got a pretty decent rate of fire. The shimming sounds pretty good, and of course, as you can see, when like any AG, when you fire in full auto, the piston stays in the locked position, so you should clear it forward with a shot on semi before you return it to safe and store it. But it comes with a nice steel cylinder here. Maybe it's aluminum, I'm actually not sure, and you can see there's actually a bunch of grease here that I'm wiping off with my finger as we do this video. On the outside, grease looks like so maybe slightly better quality than the usual ACM grease because it's a little not quite as yellow and gunky. It's an Echo 1 marked gearbox, not too heavily reinforced on the front, but still pretty solid. It's got stock metal bushings. Definitely a nice piece of work. So the gearbox, I'd say, is really solid. Rate of fire is pretty good. It uses an 8.4 volt small type Tamiya connector. But I'll remark that it actually uses some large cells, so kind of a weird little thing here. So I'm going to pull out some of the wiring as well, and you can kind of take a look at that. You can see it's a lot thicker wiring than is usual on most AEGs. It's low resistance wiring, so that's going to hold up pretty well. One thing I am going to go ahead and show you here, you can see it's actually really a tight fit in there with just that 8.4 volts. So you're not going to be able to fit a 9.6 into this little tiny stock, which is something of a disappointment, of course. And you may ultimately end up wanting to rewire if you're going to install the 6-position LE stock that normally would come with the gun. So all in all, it looks pretty solid internally. The only real complaint I have with the internals is that the Mad Bull bucking is not installed correctly, and the hop-up nub is kind of sideways there. So I'm going to have to go in there and fix that before I really get down to using this gun, but of course, since it came this way, I'm gonna be shooting my accuracy test with the bucking installed incorrectly. So I'm not expecting a whole heck of a lot from the accuracy test, but it can take a standard M4 upgrade barrel, so possibly might want to look into an Edgy or a Mad Bull barrel, or a PDI or something like that. Those are probably the best 3 barrels out there now that DB Custom is out of business, which I'm definitely sad about. So internals look pretty good. That piston, the orange piston there, looks like it's not the usual ACM nylon crap, but actually probably looks to me to be a lot more like a polycarbonate piston. So I'm pretty pleased with the internals there. I think Echo 1 at least did a good job putting their gearbox together. Shimming job sounds pretty good. Rate of fire is good. Motor seems to be working pretty well. Really, the hop-up is the only real thing that I'm disappointed about. And I've heard that some other people have had some problems. One fellow had a problem with his AKCP contractor's personal weapon, the CPW that they had. Same problem, misaligned bucking. So seems to be something that Echo 1 probably should check for in the future. But overall, I'm definitely pleased with the quality of this replica. One thing that you should be careful of, just in closing here, when opening and closing this replica, is this is a plastic receiver. These tabs are plastic, so just be careful. They're going to break off eventually. One of the reasons why I really think that Echo 1 should have gone with at least a metal upper receiver, if not a metal lower as well. So that's all for this particular portion of the Echo 1 Rec 7 review. It's a replica of the Barrett Rec 7 in 6.8 millimeters. So that's Crimson Falcon signing out.